Everybody, we're here with John Salka. Salka or Salka? How do you say that exactly?
Salka.
Salka, okay. John has been a two-term assemblyman, town supervisor, president of a school board, and also 32 years in the medical field, and is currently helping newly elected US Congressman Brandon Williams. John has an urgent warning he wants to tell all of our viewers. So, John, if you could give us a little bit of quick background of yourself, and then go at it, whatever you want to talk about.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much, and thanks for having me on. Just a little history. Grew up in Utica, New York, with a single parent in a single parent home. Watched my mom work 2 jobs just to put bread on the table, and that kind of instills in you a work ethic that you don't quit. All right, you just keep on going until you finally do what you needed to do. But I actually started my political career way back in the late 70s when I worked for the mayor of the city of Utica. I was one of his aides, and he was in office for 4 years. He was fiercely independent, and again, he worked hard for the people, and he made people that worked with him work hard and to make sure that they knew who they were working for and who they were accountable to. But I moved to a little town called Brookfield, North Brookfield actually, and got to know the community a little bit until I decided to run for the school board. So I spent 7 years on the school board, and 5 of those years I spent as school board president. Then I wanted to jump into the fire again, and I ran for town supervisor. I beat an 18-year homegrown incumbent. And if you are a supervisor of a town in Madison County by charter, you also sit on the county board of supervisors. And while I was on the board for 11 years, I chaired a number of major committees with it in mind that our primary purpose here is to serve the people and serve the taxpayers. We always made sure we kept that at the forefront. I decided to run for the assembly way back in 2014, and I ran against a guy by the name of Bill McGee, very powerful, long-term incumbent, chairman of the powerful agriculture committee, very, very embedded. And in 2014, they told me, you don't stand a snowball's chance in hell, all right, to do anything, as far as beating this guy. And, you always like to remain optimistic. You don't go into a race with the thought you're going to lose. So consequently, though, we did much better than anybody anticipated. We came within 3 points, and we were outspent, outgunned. I mean, yeah, but I could maneuver. I could get around the district, which was a large district. So I said, 2016 is coming up. I'm going to run again. So I ran again, and we came even closer. And I've always said that in politics, the first day of your next campaign starts the day after election.
Yeah,
that's when you have to start making sure you're out there, getting to know the voters, getting to know the district, and working hard to earn it. So in 2018, I finally won. Out of 44,000 votes cast, I won by 452 votes. So that was a close one.
Wow.
Yeah, and that put me in the New York Assembly, and it was the 121st district. It included all of Madison County, good part of Otsego County, and the southern portion of Oneida County, very rural, a lot of farms, a lot of towns that were very poor. Brookfield, as a matter of fact, has a mean income of less than $25,000 a year. So along with those low incomes comes a lot of issues, So, but there's cities there in the district, so I had kind of the best of both worlds. What happened was when the redistricting process had to be conducted because of the state constitution, every 10 years they do a census, and your district is designed according to population. Well, they gave me what everybody in the assembly was calling the snake. It ran one town wide from southern Madison County all the way down to Orange County, which is a half-hour north of New Jersey. And at that point, I said, this isn't fair to them. This isn't fair to the taxpayers. This isn't fair to the people I have to represent when they're 3.5 hours away and they have a whole nother set of issues that I'm not acquainted with, the MTA and crowding and, urban issues. I had a district that was primarily rural. So it would take several years just to learn the ins and the outs and the intricacies of the district. And at that point, I said, I don't think it's fair to the people. And I could have won. It's a predominantly Republican district anyway, but I didn't think it was the right thing to do. So they elected a young man from down in that area who knows the area, and he's doing okay. And I was kind of playing around with the thought of retiring, And I worked with Congressman Williams a bit on his campaign. I endorsed him. When he was starting to design his team, he came to me and he said, "I'd really like if you came on board with us. You know the area, you know the politics, you know the people. I think you'd be a perfect fit." And this is a gentleman who is very sincere. I believed him. I still do. And I said, "Yeah, I'll take the position." So he appointed me as his director of community relations. But it's what my mother used to call the chief cook and bottle washer. Okay, you're doing just about everything. So and it's a great job. It's frustrating. There's a lot of frustrations, a lot of challenges. But I think he said to us when we had one of our first meetings, he said there are two things that you're going to deal with the constituents in my district. That's love and respect. No matter what party affiliation, you're going to respect those people. And you know something, I always told my staff when I was in the assembly, just keep this in mind. I don't sign your paycheck. The state comptroller doesn't sign your paycheck. Your paycheck is signed by the taxpayers of the state of New York. Okay. And that's who you're accountable to. That's who you are in this office to serve. And, I lucked out. I had a great staff. In fact, I brought two of them along with me, to Congressman Williams' office. So, and we're getting things done. We are. But the problem is, like I said, I've been in politics. This chunk here was 22 years. It's become very, very polarized. It's very, very difficult to get your point across without it going negative. And if you watch the television, you can see that we're pretty much coming apart at the seams right now. And if those seams break, I don't know whether or not we're going to be able to get this country back. And I wish that people would realize, and they are. Charles and I were talking about it. I think more people, the positive spin on this is more people are seeing this crazy stuff that's going on in the schools, that's going on in healthcare, that's going on with industry and the mass migration out of New York State. I think people are finally starting to say, you know what, this ain't working anymore. This ain't working anymore. One example, and I still follow what's going on in the assembly pretty close. They just approved a rule in the codes committee that you don't even have to be on the floor of the assembly anymore to vote. They call it empty seat voting. So you can have either yourself or someone slide you have to swipe a card in where you can't vote. That's all you got to do. And then you can go back home, back to your office, do whatever you want. And that's the kind of thing right after they give themselves a $32,000 raise.
Yeah.
A slap in the face to the middle class, a slap in the face to the people that are struggling, like I watched my mother do, struggling to get by, making sure that they're taking care of their families and being busy enough to not really notice what's going on.
Right.
But we were talking about this. Crime and these critical issues aren't just happening in Ohio. They're not just happening to, Joe Blow down the street. They are happening in people's backyards now. It's hitting home. And it's tragic that something bad has to happen to somebody before they start to realize the system's not working in my best interest. We got to work to change it. And we're making progress. But that's always been one of my biggest challenges was getting people aware of what's going on. I held a bunch of town hall meetings. I knocked on thousands and thousands of doors, tried my best to stay in touch with, I'd carry my muck boots around with me because I'd stop at a farm and talk to somebody, just to stay in touch. And now I think people are finally starting to realize, you look at the news, it's screaming disaster. And we got to come to grips with this, or we're simply going to lose our democracy. We're going to lose our republic. That's
so what do you think? What do you think? What do people need to do out there? What do they really need to do? What's your opinion on that? What do they need to do to step up?
They need more than just say I voted and put the little sticker on their lapel.
The little proud sticker. The little proud.
Yeah, I voted. And that's fine. And voting, voting it's the American way. But there's so much more that needs to be done. We were talking about some of the offices, and I can attest to this just personally. Sometimes I thought I made more effect on people in a school board than I was as an assemblyman. Because at school board, I represented a smaller group of parents who had students in the school, and our policies directly affected how those kids were being taught, how those kids were being treated. Same thing with Town Supervisor. Brookfield's got a population of 2,400. We don't even have a traffic light. but I know that when we made decisions at that town board meeting, it affected people directly every day. And you saw those people on the street. And you better make sure that you're doing what they want you to, or what they want you to do, because they're going to call you out on it. The higher levels that you go into government, my assembly district was about roughly 130,000 people. Now the congressional district, 760,000 people.
Oh my God.
How in God's name can you possibly be able to represent even a small fraction of those people? And then add into the equation, people are so angry and frustrated and polarized that now trying to get the message across is even more difficult, because before you even get the chance to get the idea or the proposal out, they're criticizing you. Case in point, the gentleman I work with, he's been in office a little more than 100 days. There's already somebody announcing they're running against him. There's a couple groups in the Mohawk Valley that are just downright just nasty. They just don't give. We had a town hall meeting the other night in New Hartford, and the way we like to do it is, if you oppose the congressman's position on something, you hold up a red card. And we provide all the cards. If you agree with him, you hold up a green card. Okay, very simple enough. He made a statement to the effect that inflation is the highest it's been in 40 years, and they held up the red card. But wait a minute, that's a fact. That's a fact. So you're disagreeing that if inflation is higher than it's been in 40 years, it doesn't make any sense. So how do you reason with someone who is embedded, whose thoughts are embedded to the point where they don't want to listen? And when you confront them and you ask them, give me the facts on what you stand on, usually what happens is they get angry, they get confrontational, they get negative, and they walk away, or you hope they walk away sometimes. And see, that's the environment we're in now. And the country's split wide open. It's split wide open, and people need to realize this is all, and I'm not a big conspiracy nut. This is all according to plan, all right? To polarize people, to segregate people. I never thought about race for years and years. I grew up in the Cornhill section of Utica. Some of my best friends were black kids. We played basketball. We didn't even think about it. You didn't even think about it. No. And now they've caused this vitriol, this divide amongst people of different sexual orientation or different races and all that, and they got everybody going at each other. And meanwhile, they're just sitting back and watching and just saying, we're going to let them self-destruct, and then we're going to ride in on our shiny white horse, and we're going to save the day. But when they do save the day, I can guarantee you, there go your rights.
There's the problem, reaction, solution coming in right there.
Exactly. So, I have a pretty close affiliation with the agriculture community in upstate New York. And, it's a tragedy what's happening. It's a tragedy what's happening to our farmers. The average age right now for a farmer is 59 years old.
Wow.
Either 59 or 56. I should correct myself on that one. I'll have to check. But there's a lot of these farms don't have succession plans. Their kids don't want anything to do with a farm. They see their parents working 7 days a week out in the barn milking cows at 5 o'clock in the morning, no matter what the weather, and they're just maybe breaking even. Maybe.
Because a lot of the regulations and all that.
Exactly. And then you have the New York State legislature in their infinite wisdom do a farm bill that punches farmers right in the gut. Right in the gut. And they have no clue what these operations involve and the margins that they're working under and how hard it is, because unfortunately, New York State is dominated by downstate politicians.
Yeah,
it's been like that for a long time.
Yeah, it is.
I just want to bring this up real quick. Right? But John, we had this problem last week a little bit because I never knew when you were going to talk and I was going to talk or whatever.
Oh, okay, sure. I'm sorry.
No, or ask a question or whatever. But we need to make a sign like they do in baseball.
Okay, we can do that.
No, I'm talking about John Spalding.
I can keep on talking.
Yeah, no, because last week we had like a little pause at times here and there. It was like,
yeah,
you gonna say something? What? Who's going? So we should do. We got to figure that out later. But anyhow, I just want to bring this up real quick. And so, your let's say your urgent message to the listeners, like what do you think if everybody just sits on their thumbs or hands or whatever and does nothing. What do you think would happen? Because you have a lot of knowledge and local government. Now you're getting more knowledgeable in the federal aspect of it, being with Brandon Williams. But if people just sit there, what do you think the end game is for New York and our country?
I think the end game, and I don't think we're far from it, is where we no longer have a republic, where we have the freedom of speech, where we have the freedom to protect ourselves, where we have a freedom from self-incrimination. All right, we're losing that. We're losing that as we speak. And it was something that this is something, and people, I'll get talking to folks, and sometimes they'll say, well, you're Mr. Sunshine. Well, no, I'd like to be full of positivity. But what I have seen over the past 22 years in the scale of government, you can't help but be a little cynical and guarded on where you are with, your agenda. I mean, I've always thought it's the most important thing about public service, is you're serving the public. You do what the framers wanted us to do. You get there for a little while. All right, and you go back to the private sector. I was going to term limit myself at 3 terms. I'm 68 years old. You don't keep up this kind of pace forever. And I was going to term limit myself, but you know what? Oh well, maybe this is the way it goes. I didn't do the 3rd term. I decided not to, so I feel pretty good about it. But I think the most important thing that people need to understand, okay, is this is what's going on in this country is an iceberg, and what you're seeing is the tip. Okay, you're seeing the tip of that iceberg, and knowing what's just on that tip. And with an iceberg, a majority of the structure, the majority of it is formed underwater where you really can't see.
Titanic.
This is what's going on right now in government. Okay. You have the corruption. I call it institutionalized corruption. Right. You have all these, money has become such a horrible part of the equation of getting elected. And now it's all about money. It's all about their own agenda. It's all about making sure. And though I should just correct myself a little bit on that. The elected officials that I have worked with over the past 22 years, I've had the honor of working with, a majority of them are good, hardworking people who want to do well for their constituents. Okay, so it's not like, they're all corrupt. I mean, we get classified the same as used car salesmen. All right, they automatically assume that we're lying, and when you don't lie. This is the strange part about it. When you don't lie and they find out you're not lying, they're shocked. Well, you shouldn't be shocked. You should expect that. You should expect that. And that's what people aren't doing. People aren't holding people in public office accountable. The New York State has a 98% incumbency rate. 98% of those people get reelected every year, every other year. Now, if you got a job, all right, that no matter how you screw up, you got that job tomorrow. What's that going to motivate you to do better? Why should you? I'm just going to do what I do in my own self-interest. I'm going to get elected again anyway. So with a 98%, so that's why I've always firmly believed in term limits. Okay, and they say, well, elections are service term limits. No, they don't. No, they don't. All you got to do is spend a boatload of money, okay, and most likely you're going to get reelected. That's the way the system is nowadays. I'm seeing some change in that. People that are sincere, people that are rocking the boat, well, are starting to get elected or reelected, and maybe just there's a little squeak of optimism here that we're going to be able to save this country. But if we don't work our tails off at it, we're going to lose it. That's the bottom line. It's just as plain as the nose on your face.
That is true. I believe you 100%. Now you mentioned redistricting. They did that last year, the year before, whichever year it was. But I understand they might be thinking about redistricting again.
Yeah, I'll try to make it as brief as I can because it was an extremely complicated process. Essentially, every 10 years when there's a census, that's the time that Assembly, Senate, and congressional lines are redrawn according to population. Okay. The census came out. It was all screwed up because of COVID. So that was confusing. All right. They decided to redistrict. They had to by constitution. And to make a long story short, it was purely political. Okay. I know why I got redistricted. And it wasn't only the Democrats that were responsible for it.
Right, right.
You know, but that's water over the dam now.
Right,
It,
right,
it doesn't do me any good to talk about that. You
right.
know, but the Senate is permanent now. That's set in stone. The Assembly, the new lines have drawn. They accepted those, although I hear there's going to be another legal challenge to them. The one I'm concerned about it all, obviously, but the one I'm concerned about is they're going to redraw the congressional lines. Now, where that's become an issue is when Brandon Williams was first intending on running, where he lived was smack dab in the middle of the district. And then they redistricted again, and now he ends up 1.5 miles outside the district.
Wow.
So these groups are saying, well, you promised to move if you got elected. And he said, you're right, I did. But why would I pick up my farm, my family, and move only to find out in 3 months where I moved to isn't in a district anymore? So he said, I want to wait. And believe me, just being 1.5 miles outside the district makes no difference at all. This guy's working his tail off to represent people in his district. But right. I see where his reasoning. First, I got a little frustrated with it, but I see his reasons. Why should he pick up? And just let's wait till redistricting's done. And if, in fact, we know for sure where our district is going to be, of course, he's already looking at places in what might be the new district. So
it's like a big game.
It's just that inherent cynicism. Yeah.
Is it like a game?
It's all a big game. Yeah.
It should be like a board game or something, right?
You know, I'll tell you a quick story. When I first got elected, I had a guy come up to me at a fundraiser, and he had a $500 check. And it was made out to Friends of John Salka. And he introduced himself, and he represented the Trial Lawyers Association of New York State. Ambulance chasers. So I said, thank you. Wow, this is great. You know, I'm a terrible fundraiser. I'm terrible at it. I hate begging for money.
Sure,
but at any rate, I said, but I just want to let you know. Yeah, just to let you know that this has by no means has bought a vote. Okay, I am not going to vote, all right, unless it's in the best interest of my constituents. Well, in that particular session, 2 votes came up that they were dead set against, and I voted yes. Okay, because I saw it as what it was in the best interest of my constituents. I never saw another penny from those people. In fact, the guy snubs me in more fundraisers. You know, so.
It's almost like low key bribery is what it's.
Oh
like.
yeah. And here's one. You're gonna love this one. You, as taxpayers now in the state of New York, pay for politicians' campaigns now.
What?
They passed the bill last year that there's going to be matching money now coming from the taxpayers going to campaign funds for politicians at a 6-to-1 ratio.
Wow.
I raise $15, I get 60 from the taxpayers. And
I never heard of that.
Know that. Nobody seems to know it.
Wow.
Do you have a bill number on that?
John, I could get it to you. It passed. Okay. You know, it passed.
Okay. That's the first I've heard of it.
Was that part of the budget bill?
It was last year. I think, yes, it was in the budget. It was in the 22-23 budget.
22-23.
They sneak in so much stuff, man. It'd be great. It'd be great if they just like do bills and just have like 1 or 2 things on the agenda. But they throw in all this nonsense, all this crazy stuff. They slip in all this crazy stuff that nobody knows about. They don't hear about until afterwards. It's insane.
And here's the game, too, that they play. They keep you up all night. You start about 8 o'clock in the morning. You pass a budget about 24 or 25 hours later. It's about this thick, obviously. It's this year, $229 billion.
Wow.
Yeah, and those bills that you see, you've got maybe at best an hour to review them.
Oh my God!
So you're voting on a bill that might have an appropriation line of $25 billion. You got maybe an hour to take a look at that bill. So by instinct, I vote against them. I can't vote in good conscience. Yes, on a bill I hardly ever saw. Another thing that they like to do is they like to do a hybrid. They like to do a potpourri. They'll put in a bill. They'll put education spending along with transportation spending. So, well, wait, I really like the education part of this, but I hate the transportation part. So what do? Do And then you got to worry that election time. They're going to say, "Oh, you voted against education," but
Yeah.
it was in the same bill as transportation that was really crappy.
Hmm.
See how they do it?
Yeah,
This is
anything to
why-
make you look bad, anything terrible.
Yeah, it's great. Anything to confuse people.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so listen, we're at the 30-minute mark. I like to keep it right at approximately like 30 minutes.
Great.
John Salka, is there any information you give people, like how to get a hold of you, or Brandon Williams, or anything like that? Any social media?
Yeah, the best way on the congressional side is just go for Brandon Williams, Congressman Brandon Williams. Okay, and he has a page, and all our contact information is on that page. And like I said, I'm the regional director, director of regional community relations. We went through this job title so many times, I forgot what it was exactly. Sometimes. But you know how these are. You don't always.
Oh, I know.
I got my title. It's my own ship in a bottle.
I've got Facebook. There you go. And I'm on Facebook. John Salka, Salka.
Yeah.
I've got thousands and thousands of followers.
Yeah.
Although I don't trust Facebook as far as I could throw it, but it's good for some general information. But I want to let you know, I really appreciate this time.
We appreciate it as well.
What I stand for.
And if you want to come back on again, just let us know. But hook us up with Brandon Williams. Maybe we could both of you. Maybe both of you guys can come on.
Hey, like I said, he's not pretentious. The guy is true and blue.
Mhm. Yeah.
He was a missile control officer on a nuclear submarine. He's a very serious guy, but you want somebody who's serious to be doing that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, gentlemen, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.
Okay, we appreciate your time as well. Have a great night.
All right,
Anything we can ever do, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Okay,
good.
thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
thanks.